Hello, welcome. Today we are talking of The Dragon Chamber by Siegel, the second book in this series. There is going to be non-spoilery section, which is this, and a spoilery section later. I enjoyed much. This series is a very good series. The same as with the first book, I give this book 5 stars. I definitely don't think it's as good as the first book, but it's still really great. And if you liked the first book, then you will like this. She does a very good job of building up the world that was established in the first book. A lot of things don't do that very well. Unintended movie sequels are the biggest culprit of this, where you watch it and it builds on what the first one was about. But it does it in such a big way that it loses the feel of the first one that you like. It loses the plot. That's not what happened here. We built on the story a lot. We built on the world and the magic system, but it was just enough that it still had very much the same vibe, and the first one was already pretty complicated, so I would say these are definitely 16 plus. They're very good and very excellent, but there is a couple bad words and a couple references to sexual things. There's one scene in particular that I thought was pretty weird. That was my least favorite scene. Did not enjoy that scene. I wouldn't say it's extremely graphic or anything, but you definitely don't want a child reading this if they haven't had that discussion yet. If you grew up reading stories like Narnia and stuff with old magical feeling mansions and fantasy creatures and different worlds and magic and all of that sort of stuff, you will definitely enjoy these, because it's basically like that, but it's more in-depth and more complicated. The writing style is very interesting. I really enjoy the writing style in these books, but I would say it would definitely be a turn-off if you're not very used to reading much. There's a lot of expensive words used. I have to let the cat out, excuse me. It's not exactly a 3rd grade level book. It definitely has more complicated language and phrasing. And between that and just how creative it is, just how hard to wrap the few things in it where it's hard to wrap your mind around it, between that and the writing style, which I think both of those things are good things, but between them, if you're not very used to reading, it can definitely be hard to follow. I recommend 100%. My biggest complaint with this is the ending. I did not like the ending. I didn't think the ending was at all satisfying, which is very disappointing, because this one had a very satisfying ending. But this one, it just felt like it all happened so fast and the pieces fell into place just a little too easily, a little too predictably. It just happened. It was like a car crash. I wouldn't say it's as bad as a car crash, but it felt the same energy of a car crash. It just happened, and then it was done. Like, a dragon's coming at them, and of course she has the head of a dragon person in her bag, so of course she's just gonna use that. If you're watching this without having actually read the book, it's gonna seem really weird, by the way, because there's a lot of stuff in this that out of context is not at all. It's very weird. Even in context, it's pretty weird, so... But weirdness is good in this, except for that one scene. And also just the fact that it ends with Gaynor. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right at all, but Gaynor? I'm definitely not pronouncing that right, or maybe I am. There's a very small chance that I'm pronouncing that right, but that is how I'm pronouncing it in this video. The fact that the book just ends with her just leaving without telling Will goodbye and in a way breaking up with Will, sort of, kind of, maybe. I just thought that was... It wasn't a no, but it was a why. Why? She just woke up that morning after everything that they all been through, and her takeaway from it is she doesn't want to be with Will for some reason. I don't know. I thought that was weird and random and not at all a satisfying way to end it. Overall, I'm just not as impressed. I really enjoyed reading this. It really gave me a lot of the same magical, mystical feelings that the first one gave me that I loved about it. It wasn't as satisfying, it wasn't as magical as the first book. Like, I'm definitely going to reread this at some point in my life, I know. And unless the third book, which I'm definitely going to read the third book, unless it is particularly good, then I expect that I will reread only this one. Like, I might reread it at some point, but I think ultimately I will probably only be rereading it to bridge the two. I'm not selling this book very well. It's a very good book, and I really liked it. It's just not as good as the first one, which isn't entirely fair to say, because I shouldn't completely compare it to its predecessor, but also, yes, I don't know. I feel conflicted on whether or not books should be compared to other books. Gaynor overall, I loved the character of Gaynor. It was very ingenious to start this off from her point of view, because it added all the mystery back into it. What is it called? Dramatic irony or something like that? Where it's suspenseful and it's fun to see the mystery unfold because you know what's happening, but the character doesn't know what's happening, and you know that the character doesn't know what's happening, and it's just fun. It's fun. And I thought it was very good, and I hope that she is in the next book, because I loved her character, and I also would like her and Will to end up together, because why didn't they? The only reason that I'm accepting that ending at all is because I expect that it is somehow a build-up to the third book. Also, this isn't really about the book, but something funny that I think about it is that as soon as we introduced Gaynor's character, I immediately thought of, like, short, curly hair. And I imagined Fern with very long, straight hair. And I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be exactly the other way around. I think Fern, I'm pretty sure Fern had a bob cut in this and a pixie cut in this one, and Gaynor was supposed to have like really long hair like Allison had. I really liked Fern's arc. The beginning of the book was very interesting for me because we had a wedding that clearly was not good, and we had Fern being in a mindset that was very interesting to watch, and it was just very fun to watch her go through this and accept her magic and everything. The scene where she broke up with Marcus, it was Marcus, right? The scene where she broke up with Marcus was very, I don't know, it hit my soul in a very particular way that I don't ever remember it being hit before. Like, just the irony of him talking about what he wanted and how Fern was actually sort of that, except it's the part of her that she'd been keeping hidden. He wanted magic and she has magic and he didn't know that and she's been keeping that suppressed. I feel bad for Marcus. Poor Marcus. Actually, no, I feel bad for their dad because their dad he's just had to deal with a lot in all of these books. I'm very interested to know what the third book's about because I haven't read the synopsis of the third book, and when I went into this I had read the synopsis, so I knew that it took place years after the first one, which originally bothered me when I first learned that, but having read it I thought it was done very, very well. They're very good books. I want to stress that. They're very good. They're very well done. They are 5 stars in my imagination, in my opinion. I just like the first one better, okay? You are a good book. You are good. You are very good. The beginning of this book, I think the beginning is my favorite. The ending was a weak point, but the beginning was excellent. The going back and forth between showing some history of stuff that we were about to get to, showing Morgus and Cesare, watching them but without enough detail. I just liked how we got all of this stuff floating in just pure fantasy and then it all slowly came together into a tangible thing as we went. I really liked that effect. I really liked just all the questions that you were given at the beginning. How deep and rich the world feels when you first enter it. Especially since it's not the first time that you've entered it, it's actually a return, because this is a sequel, and that's how sequels work. In a lot of books, with stories like this, things like loyalty and friendship all just seem to just happen easily and quickly, but a lot of the characters in this book are very withholding of their trust and friendship and loyalty, and that makes it a whole lot more when it does happen, and it gives it a lot more conflict, not quite the right word, but interest, I guess. Stakes, like when Cal was helping her out of the tree place. and they were keeping secrets for each other, even though they didn't really have each other's loyalty or friendship, but it kind of did. I do like that it wasn't just cold and that it wasn't just everyone withholding their thing. I like that Fern was there. Like, she was smart about it, but sort of. But she was there to be a little less withholding of things. I'm very excited for the third book when I read it. It is going to be really, really good. I am sure. Was quite scared that Blueberry was gonna die in this book. Very happy she didn't. Definitely would have made the ending even worse for me. That would have been a whole nother why. Actually, you know what? That was my least favorite scene. That scene where it was just like pages and pages of like her slowly getting weaker. Like, it did its job, that scene, but I did not appreciate that. I understand it, I respect it, but I don't like it. I feel like I should say something about Rag and Bone, but he was kind of just there in this. Well, I guess he is always kind of just there. I think that's the point of his character. He's just there to say things when things need to be said, and to give cryptic advice because that's his archetype. This is bothering me. I cannot flip through it with that. Oh, the scene where Fern got taken and Gaynor is driving. That is a good scene. That was a really good scene. I really liked that. Clearly Morgus is going to be returning because the epilogue is titled Morgus, even though it has nothing to do with Morgus. It has more to do with Gaynor being a coward. And then there's this like sort of poem, but not really, that's clearly about Morgus. So he will be returning, I am sure. Bradakin, I liked him. He was fun. I like that the dad's girlfriend was there. It was this like comic relief sort of, but not really. Just a real tangible, not super serious thing in the book that was there with her dog Yoda. It was just like a nice cushion that was good. It was just like nice and comfortable and happy to have her there. Here's something about Rag and Bone. The scene where he went to find that guy in the invisible shop and they summoned people and talked to them. It was interesting, kind of. Not really. I wasn't entirely sold on that scene. I just didn't really see how it fit into the big picture. It just wasn't my favorite. It wasn't my favorite. It was a little weird to be seeing from Rag and Bone's point of view. Did that happen in the first book? I don't remember. Another really weird thing is Lou Gary talking. I see why it was necessary, but very strange. Very weird when that was not something that was a thing until that moment. I think that's another thing that kind of made the ending feel a little bit too easy to me, is that the whole idea of Lou Gary not being able to communicate is just weird. I liked the Morlocks. Well, like, I didn't like the Morlocks, but I like not liking the Morlocks. I thought that was a cool creature idea. I liked how they were described as being Mal. Jan Siegel has very excellent writing style. She really knows exactly the right words to string together to get the exact image and the exact tone that she's trying to do. I'm not really sure precisely what the takeaway is. I think, don't settle. Be, something about Fern in her, not good marriage that she was about to get stuck in. Don't settle. Be yourself. People like it when you are yourself and not pretending not to be yourself for some reason. That is all that I have for today. If you've read this, I hope you enjoyed it, and if you haven't, you're probably very confused, but I hope I convinced you to try it and the series, because it's a very good series. It's one of my favorite series. I might say it's my favorite series at the moment, and I'm very excited to read the third book, and hopefully I will be in the mood to do bookish videos when I am in the third book, because I almost wasn't for this book, but I'm very happy that I did. Be sure to like and sub and all those things that I don't like saying, but I realize that it's smart to say. Do it right now. Like and subscribe and comment comment the title of the book that you are currently reading. Goodbye. What is that yellow?